Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. In this video, this is going to be a free healing video, and it's going to be regarding individuals that are very sensitive to discordant field. And what I mean by discordant field or energy, I'm talking about Wi-Fi, I'm talking about 5G, I'm talking about EMFs. Right? Fields, energy fields that do not support a human's physiology. Okay? Before we get into providing that free healing to you, I want to talk a little bit more about it, because one thing that we emphasize a lot at Truly Holistic is that a greater level of knowing and understanding of something provides healing in itself. Okay, and first we're going to go over, how does that discordant field come about? Yes, there are cell phone towers, right? There's dirty electricity bleeding out of the wires in the walls in our homes. We've got the smart meters. We've got all these sorts of things, but ultimately, we've got to go back to, I guess you could call it the 0 point of where all that came from, how it came about. Yes, they're all technologies, right? Including, the generations, right? That's what the G stands for in regards to 5G. We're going to go over that, right? Where it's gone 3G, 4G, 5G, and so on, that which are generations. But that technology came from a human, right? We forged this technology. But the idea, the seed, the concept that we fleshed out to become this thing in our physical reality that then influences us, all came from the mind. It came from mind, thought, mentality. And I hark on all the time, and I'm going to do it again, because this is so important, is that we are not the mind and we are not thought and mentality. Okay? The number one source of discordant field, and I know it more than anyone because I'm clearing it out every day through clients, is a human actioning upon discernment that comes from mind, thought, mentality, which are ideas, seeds, concepts that you bring into this reality every day. Okay? And you're forming what we call duality energy. Duality energy made up of two polarities, which are two opposing factions that ultimately create conflict amongst themselves. And really within that is really the story or arc of humanity, and what is being experienced out as humanity as a collective. And often I call that the game of duality. It's really us taking on the identity as the human, which was a byproduct of the world teaching us who we need to be, which was really a curriculum forged by what the mind represents. This is why, as a human, we heralded thought as a thinker, and thought as that discernment of what makes one intelligent or not. Right? But taking the ideas, the concepts, the seeds that come through from the mind, which is not what we are, but to apply our reality creating abilities to it, to bring it into this reality, that then does not work for us. It works against us, where it's causing all the illnesses that we know and the issues and problems that humanity experiences, but it also doesn't support the authentic natural state of the earth, which we know as nature. That's the thing. Anything that comes from the mind does not align with nature, and it doesn't align with us because it doesn't present us natural state. Because we don't come from the mind. We are not the mind. We come from the heart and what the heart represents, which is not thought, it's feel. And funnily enough, our primordial discernment, something that's ever present, is what is felt. And feel is the domain of the heart, while thought is the domain of the mind. Now, I wanted to bring that in to this because we really need to emphasize that all these examples I've ever already given as discordant field, right? 5G, Wi-Fi, EMF, are all forged and created from a human believing that the mind is them, and to action upon the discernment, the seeds, your ideas and concepts that what the mind represents, what it facilitates to us. Okay? So ultimately, what turns this all around is us deciding to no longer heed the discernment, the pathway of mind, thought, mentality, and to jump ship and go back home, which is the heart, to allow heart to feel through knowing, which is a more intuitive, instinctual process, to guide us, to feel our way instead of think our way. Because all of a sudden now we present a natural state that supports the body, and we then forge and create technology that align with not only ourselves but with nature. It works with nature because the heart is symbiotic and synergistically bound and connected to the earth, to its natural state, nature. Okay, right. You'll understand how important that is, what I've just discussed in a minute, and then we're going to do the free healing, okay? Actually, we're going to do the 3 healing and then we'll discuss more about it. Let's do the 3 healing now, because the intentions I'm going to make is going to directly connect into what we're going to talk about afterwards, and how it also connects to our heart and our own natural state, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the intention for the healing, and I'd love to hear your feedback and how it felt to you and what you felt from that, what you experienced and what the changes that occurred. And then we're going to get into the terms, the terminology that's used in this clearing, and how it connects to our natural state, but also how it connects to the word generation in regards to 4G, 5G, and so on, right? So let's do the clearing. Okay, to everybody watching and listening to this video, this free healing, I want to facilitate all of their generations, which means realities, through their heart, and to be facilitated in this reality, which we call Generation 3. You'll feel the feeling in your chest. So facilitate all generations, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, through everybody that's watching and listening to this video, their heart, facilitate through the heart, so it can be represented, expressed in this reality we call Generation 3, please. Nice, nice. Okay. So the key word in that intention, that clearing, is generation, right? And as I mentioned in that intention, generation, the way my soul sees the word generation, that's how it calls a universe, a reality. It calls it a generation. Okay. And when I said we're going to facilitate all of your generations, right? We gave the numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They are all realities or universes that your soul consciousness, that's facilitated through the heart, which we could call an infinite consciousness, is bound and connected to all those other realities. Now, at a consciousness or intelligence level, which is not something that has form, right? What we would call shape or geometry. That's what the word form means. It's made up of formless frequencies, right? And that's the reason why then it utilizes the body as an anchor to come through it, to have an experience in a reality that does have form to it, because we're going to convert what is formless into form. Okay? So when I'm saying all these other realities, generations, this is your soul consciousness's way of expanding itself, to evolve itself as an energy, as a consciousness, as an intelligence. Now, it utilizes in each reality, each generation, a medium, an interface, an anchor you know as a body. So what I'm talking about here are variants or versions of you in other realities, right? So what people might refer to in a spiritual or intuition sense or a connection as a higher self, okay? Now, I'm going to show you something I show a lot in videos, because this is, once you understand this, you've got everything. And this literally means everything, because this is where you come from. The heart is a portal that gets you here, right? So if anybody's seen what that structure looks like, a wormhole portal, right, is really, it's a tree, right? A tree is a wormhole portal in itself, because you've got the trunk, right, which is that kind of path, right? And then you've got two entrances on each end, okay? So the heart is kind of the entrance out on this end, right, where we have this experience here through this vehicle medium, this anchor we call a body. On the other end, right, of that path that goes within, it goes in. It's not above your head, it's in. On the other end of that, that's what we call the quantum. That's where you come from. Quantum can literally mean everything, but it can also mean light, okay, because you are the light, okay. Now, on this map, you'll notice that these circular things, these are realities, universes. You'll see it's generation, right? You've got generation 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, right? And that's where we are here, okay? You've got the roots of the tree, and this is the foliage, right? So, which really literally means that this is where we express what we are. We're supposed to anyway, if we're heart-led, let's say, right? Not mind-orientated. Which is very much connected to the phenomena known as ascension. Ascension is to facilitate everything that you are here to be represented. That's what ascension means, okay? So to ascend is to realize who you are, what you are, but also how you facilitate it here, right? And the key with that, and once you master that ability, the way you perceive reality is transformed completely, because through realizing, understanding what you are, you can then realize what you're not, okay? So that's the word generation, right? Now, isn't this interesting? Let's start with this, the word generation. When we're talking about healing with the body, right? Often the word regeneration comes up, right? Well, if you've got your heart open, right? You're accessing the heart, you're getting it open, you're being led by the heart through feel, not mind, thought, mentality. You're facilitating more of these generations, the wisdom, the knowledge, the energy into here, right through you here, which we could simply say more generations, which we could also say as regeneration, because we're bringing through more than one generation here, right? And what that means ultimately to the body is more energy and more flow. And what have we found it truly holistic? What materials do the body need to heal itself? Because it already knows what to do. You just need to present the state and the materials that it requires to do what it needs to do. And do you know what it is? It's more energy and more flow. Funny that. But if we're up here all the time, we're not in our heart, which means we don't facilitate any of that. We could say that's degeneration. Right? You can see how that connects with us, right? Because we're disconnecting from ourselves. So really, this whole aspect of degeneration, disease, and illness is due to a disconnect to what we are. Right? Okay. So let's get into how I want to connect this to 5G. Because, as I say, the word G is a generation. Okay? So, this was the definition of 5G when I looked it up on Google. So, here we go. 5G stands for the 5th generation of mobile network technology. It is the successor to 4G, right? So, they've gone 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. And provides faster data speeds, lower latency, and greater capacity for connecting devices than previous generations. Right? So it's perceived as an improved technology. Okay. So we're going to look at some specific terms with that, but what I want to say first is that then challenge or question the fact that, okay, why humans then are getting more impacted, influenced, and affected by each next generation, right, in regards to this mobile network technology. Now, why that is because that technology is an extension of the will of the mind, right? The original idea or concept of that was brought to the human to bring it into reality as a technology by the mind, out of thought and a mentality. As I say, that's not what you are. So as, just like here, right, as we bring through more generations of, through the heart, what we are, right, it advances us. So what is this generation in regards to mobile network technology advancing? It's not advancing us because it's having a detrimental effect to us. Now, what it's bringing through is not more of the quantum where we come from, which is the light. It's bringing through more of what the mind represents, which is the void, which we could simply say is the dark. Okay? And see that void or darkness as a black hole. I think, we'll use that analogy. I think it connects perfectly to it. Because when we look at a black hole, which has a strong gravitational force or pull to it, what does it do? It sucks the light away from a star, and you, as a soul consciousness that comes from the quantum, which literally means light, and that the Latin word for the sun is actually soul, it's sucking your light. Because what you authentically originally are is an infinite source of energy. I actually did a post just today saying, why is the human, why do I hear every day people as the human always talking about that they never have enough energy, they're lacking energy, when what they authentically are is an infinite source of it. Comes back to that connection problem, right? To know what you are, to then facilitate what you are. But the humans embodying the mind as themselves, which is not what they are. That black hole that then just draws their light away, feeds their light. You think about chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, all these things. All these nervous system problems, right? You're being siphoned. Okay? So, anyway, let's get back to it. So, the void feeds on duality energy. Okay? All right? Which is an energy that is not holistic, right? It's not in its whole form, and it's hungry, which means it's parasitic in nature. It feeds off of you. And it's imbalanced. This is why the human's autopilot mode is an unregulated nervous system, which is an imbalanced nervous system. Why? Because they're not presenting their natural state. They don't know what they are authentically. And they don't know how to facilitate that. The original harmonizer is the heart. It shifts things that are out of balance back into balance, shifting what is chaotic back into a harmonious state that supports you. Only if you access the heart and utilize what I call an open heart. A good heart's not an open heart. There's a difference. There's a lot of people that have good hearts, but they'll use mind, thought, mentality process to provide what is termed a good heart, but they get detrimentally impacted and affected at the end of the day. Okay? I work with so many healers over the years that are trying to do the right thing, right? Their heart's in the right place. There's problems, there's suffering out there, I'm going to help. But what's leading that, forging that path of them wanting to make that change is the mind, and the mind doesn't want change. So ultimately that healer then becomes sick themselves. They become fatigued themselves because they don't understand how reality is formed, how it's created, which is our own manifestation, reality creating ability. But we need to know what we are. Okay? Excuse me. Now, this is why we did this healing today, because, ultimately I wanted to give a free healing for people to mitigate this discordant field, right? And what I found really interesting, right, with this mobile network technology, because people are getting afraid and scared of the next generations that will lead into 6G and 7G and so on. Now, how we negate that, how we mitigate that is a greater understanding of what it really means, but realizing that also that same terminology, that same pathway is very much aligned to our makeup, only through a different pathway, which I've represented through this, which also uses the word generation. Okay? And that's why we wanted to do that free healing, but more importantly, do a video discussing this, because you having a greater level of knowing and understanding is not just a clearing, but a more sustained approach, right? To not allow these discordant fields to harm you, okay? Ultimately, in our life, we allow everything, constructively or destructively, okay? So when we are up in the air or uncertain about it, we are now forging a reality or experience that actually doesn't work for us. It works against us. We're taking a path of more resistance instead of least resistance, because the body needs flow. Flow is what keeps you well and vital. While if we start to bring obstacles in our way that then congest, obstruct, and block flow, then all of a sudden we're going to become sick. Okay? So let's look into some of these specific words, right? When I talked about what 5G means, right? This is another interesting thing, a lot of people roll their eyes that, oh, this energy stuff, what are you on about? But we've got to realize that essentially everybody has an iPhone now. And that iPhone is dependent on Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi is something that's in the unseen. Okay. Generally, what's in the unseen is the cause to the effect. Okay. Because what's in the unseen, which will simply stay as the state or environment, right, made up of energy fields, is what predetermines the expression, which means all the symptoms that the body gives off, the behavior, so the symbiotic relationship of the body and the microbes, and its ultimate function. It predetermines all of that. And when you realize that our eyes only see 0.0035% of reality, like the electromagnetic spectrum of light, realizing that 99.9965% that we don't even see is in the unseen. You can understand that. Right? But conventionally, you're not going to learn that by just conventional means of news or TV or what's taught at school, what's taught in universities. Okay? But it's a scientific fact all the same. Right? So let's look at some of these words. So it says here, as the generations go up in this mobile network technology, right, from 4G to 5G, it's gonna provide faster data speeds. Well, how does that align when we bring through more of ourself through the heart? More downloads of wisdom and insight. All right? Because really, this body is a computer. When I talk to my soul consciousness, it doesn't reference it as a body. It calls it an interface. And the word interface is assigned with the word computer. Now then the question becomes, what network of interconnected network, right? Like a computer dialing, connecting into a network, right, to go onto the internet. What path are we going to choose? Are we going to choose the network that connects into humanity, a collective of humans that are forged by the mind? What isn't you? Or are you going to forge a network that connects us back to where we come from, the quantum, which is through the heart, which is our oneness as a soul, what you infinitely are and what you authentically are, right? So you can see that, we could even go to the virus, right? Biological virus and a computer virus. Same thing. If we see it as looking at our body as a computer and the whole terminology I'm just discussing now, we understand really what a virus really is, what it really is, authentically is, compared to how we would be taught biologically. Okay? Okay, so that's faster data speeds. Now, lower latency. What is that symbol? What could that mean? That could mean less resistance. Right? Now, I was talking to someone today about a visualization or analogy that, water in nature is the physical embodiment of flow. It teaches us the importance of flow. And what does water do? It always chooses the path of least resistance. Right? That teaches us the importance of being in the flow, going with the flow, which really is to feel our way from the heart, not overthink the process, because ultimately we become our own obstruction, right? So when we get more and more thought mentality, we start to put all those obstacles in our way that impede and block what we require, what we need, what we are, and what sustains and maintains wellness and vitality for the body. And then it says a greater capacity for connecting devices than previous generations. Now, it's emphasizing the word connection. Right? You connect into more of your generations, which come from the quantum, right? That is through the heart, feel, knowing pathway, which is connecting to what you authentically are as a soul consciousness. There's all infinite potential. All answers are found on a multiverse, because it's endeavored by all infinite possibility. Well, if we're up here, we're limiting our capacity to understand who we are, understand what reality is, and also limiting our ability to actually heal ourselves, because it's based on probability, and probability is based on creating more of the same, which means no change. And if someone's got a health problem, I always say to my clients every day, what you have in common with every other client that comes to me, ultimately, you're looking for change. And if you're using a momentary process every day that's based on no change, keeping it the same, and you repeating the remanifesting loop day in, day out, you're not going to get the outcomes, the results you're looking for. It's not about seeking out here. It's about becoming more aware of your own process. Very important. Anyway, I hope you've really enjoyed this video. It's now 30 minutes. We'll stop it there. I hope you really enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the free healing. Please put your comments down below. Tell me how that felt, that clearing. Ask questions about the topic I'm discussing in this video. I'd love to hear your feedback in regards to this. If you want to know more of this, because my expertise is in understanding reality and how it's forged, which is directly connected to your own process, your momentary process. And as I say, as you have a greater level of knowing and understanding, it ultimately means more healing. It means an expansion and advancement of your own evolution, what many in the spiritual circles or consciousness community call ascension. Ascension and providing the state that supports the body's wellness and vitality are not two different pathways. They are the one pathway. They're the same. And we can provide that through either healing sessions or reality coaching, where I can explain these principles in greater depth. Go to my appointment page at trulyholistic.net/appointments/ and go and check that out. We also have energy products that support the self-empowered individual. So go and check those out as well, which is my product store at trulyholistic.net/products/ go and check that out. But until next time, remember to like this video, share it on social media platforms, and please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. Until next time, catch you later.